At one point or another, we've all experienced a power outage. Most of the time, though, it's only a few hours, but sometimes it's much longer, and sometimes it's much larger scale. Our grid has become increasingly unreliable, and it's only going to get worse. With the push to turn everything electric, that's going to put a lot of strain on a power grid that is severely neglected and can barely handle the capacity it's at this point. This means that the potential for power outages is not only possible, but it's very likely at some point. And if the power goes out in the summer months, it can be just an inconvenience. But if the power goes out during the winter, it can become a survival situation very quickly. So let's go ahead and dive into the first one here, and this is the importance of staying warm. As the mercury dips, our primary concern during a power outage should be maintaining our core body temperature. This is the most important aspect of surviving a blackout. But there are quite a few options to maintain heat, and the first one is insulating your home. You can do this by using thermal curtains that trap heat, weatherproofing doors and windows. Using thick rugs can prevent air from seeping up through the floor. I know this because we have wood floors all through our house. These items can significantly aid in controlling the unnecessary and wasteful loss of heat from your home. And even on top of this, in extremely cold situations, sealing off a single room to conserve heat may be the best bet and may be more practical and energy efficient. Choose a room that has few windows and doors. These are usually the places where drafts come in. Use blankets and plastic sheeting to cover windows if there are any, and seal off any potential drafts into that room. Now, this room can serve as a temporary living space for the duration of the power outage, ensuring that you and your family stay safe while this situation is going on. So you're not heating the entire house. You're heating one room in the house, which is going to be much easier to maintain a warmer temperature than trying to heat the whole house. And then we move on to insulating yourself, layering and insulated clothing. When the temperatures drop, wearing multiple layers of clothing can trap your body heat to keep you warm as long as possible. And don't forget about your extremities and your core body parts. These areas are particularly vulnerable to the cold. So remember to cover your head with hats, protect your hands with gloves, and keep your feet warm with thick socks. And also try to keep everything dry. That's a major factor in getting hypothermia. And also store some extra blankets and cold weather sleeping bags. Having extra blankets and even wool blankets is a must during winter blackouts. Wool is a natural insulator and it can keep you warm even when it's damp. We have a couple of storage bins with old blankets that we've accumulated over the years, and we have these tucked away for emergencies just like this. In the same vein, investing in cold weather sleeping bags or sub-zero sleeping bags for each member of the family will ensure that you stay warm without the heating systems. And then you've got wood stoves, fireplaces, kerosene heaters, the Mr. Buddy heaters. Wood stoves and fireplaces are the traditional home heating option, although not everyone has one. So if you do, that's great, but if not, you'll need to look in other directions. You also have the kerosene heaters, which are portable, they're versatile, although there are better options than this one. You will need fuel for these, and you'll also need to think about the proper ventilation and pay constant attention to these to ensure your safety when you're using kerosene heaters. The Big Buddy heaters are powered by propane. They're compact, they're easy to use heating devices, again, for a small room. They're designed for portability, and they can be used both indoors and outdoors. Again, with the proper ventilation, these are perfectly fine for indoors in a small room. Buddy heaters are equipped with safety features, so this makes them a little bit safer than the kerosene heaters during power outages, and this is why they are a go-to in the preparedness community. All right, so now that we've got the most important part taken care of, and maybe even the most basic part, I want to go over preparing a lights out kit or a blackout kit. A power outage kit can help you stay organized by having the most commonly used or most important power outage supplies in one easy to locate kit. Now keep in mind, this isn't a kit where you're going to put everything in this video in the kit, just the most important things like extra batteries, flashlights and headlamps, crank radios, extension cords, all of those things that you want to make sure you know exactly where they are when the time comes. I have a video that goes over what I keep in my lights out kit. And in my lights out kit, I have the flashlights, the batteries, I have an inverter, I have extension cords, I have playing cards, a lot of different things. And this changes constantly. So I'll leave that link below and you can check that video out and put together a lights out kit however you deem necessary. All right, let's move on to backup power supply and batteries. During a blackout, a backup power supply like a generator, the power stations, extra batteries, and even solar power, if that's an option, become essential. Power stations or even the smaller power packs can provide emergency power for lighting, charging mobile devices, and even powering small heating devices. Some of these smaller battery packs are great to have during a blackout because they allow you to charge mobile devices and tablets, anything that doesn't take a whole lot of power. But having the ability to turn these on and power these up could provide communications, could give you access to emergency information, and even a little bit of entertainment. Some of these smaller battery packs come with solar panels, although most of them don't work all that well. And some also have built-in LED lights to use as an emergency lighting source. Now, when you're looking at larger appliances, this is where the power stations come in. And there are quite a few different kinds of these. I have a 100 amp hour solar power station. They make the Jackeries, EcoFlows, a lot of different kinds. But these are nice and convenient and pack a whole lot more energy than these smaller battery packs would. Another option is to purchase a 100 amp hour LiFePO4 battery along with a power inverter, and this will basically give you the same options. Now, the one caveat to this is appliances that you're going to be able to run with this are going to take up a lot of energy, so you'll need to have a way to recharge these during a power outage, which means solar, and that isn't an option for everyone. So at the very least, make sure these are topped off all the time. Make sure they are at 100%, because the last thing you want is to go into some sort of power outage and your battery be down to 50% capacity. This goes with the power stations and the LiFePO4 batteries. And as I mentioned before, make sure you have batteries, and a lot of extra batteries, for your crank radios, for your ham radios, for anything that you would need batteries for. Make sure you have those available. Have some rechargeables if you have a means to recharge those batteries, and even just have the regular Energizers or Duracell batteries that you might need to throw in a flashlight or something like that. And a much larger option is an actual generator, and they make a few different kinds of these as far as fuel is concerned. You've got propane, you've got gasoline, and you've got solar as well. These generators will be able to power just about any appliance that you have in your home. And if you are thinking about running your refrigerator to make sure the food doesn't spoil, you are going to need something, one, much larger than these little battery banks, and two, something that if you don't have the ability to replenish the energy used from solar, gasoline may be that option. Now, with generators, you also have the noise factor, and that can be dangerous in a situation like this. Because if you are running a generator and your neighbor isn't, and you're nice and cozy warm in your little room and your neighbor isn't, if they hear your generator, the odds are you're going to be getting a visit from your neighbor pretty soon. Now, one more thing before we move on, I want to talk about inverters, because you can basically turn your automobile into a generator. Out in Texas, quite a few people died from carbon monoxide poisoning from getting in their car and turning the heater on. If you have an inverter and an extension cord, you can basically turn your car into a generator. You can take that extension cord and run it into the house, run a space heater, maybe keep your refrigerator plugged in for a little bit. And again, you have that fuel supply that is going to last a whole lot longer than a single 100 amp hour battery, as long as you have fuel stored and a full tank of gas, that is. All right, so next we have lighting solutions. And I'll tell you what, most people don't realize how dark it actually gets until they have to live through it with no light whatsoever. In the absence of regular electricity, we need these alternative solutions like flashlights, headlamps, candles, lanterns, glow sticks. All of these can help us illuminate our surroundings, navigate around the house, and even be able to just see each other while we're communicating. And like I said earlier, a lot of these can be stored in a lights out kit, but you also want to have these scattered around the house in strategic locations. If the power goes out while you're in the kitchen, in the basement, in the bedroom, you don't want to have to try to navigate your whole home in the darkness to find that lights out kit or a flashlight. So if you have them in end tables, in coffee tables, in cupboards, in a lot of different areas, it's going to be easier to navigate if the power goes out in the middle of the night. Candles are a favorite option for quite a few people, but just like a lot of these options when you're talking about a blackout, they do pose a fire risk. So it is something just like the kerosene heaters that needs constant attention, and you really need to think about safety. Lanterns are great as well. They're self-contained, and instead of putting off a beam of light like a flashlight or headlamp would, a lantern will illuminate the entire area. So if you've got a lantern sitting on a kitchen table, the family's eating dinner, it's going to be a lot easier than if one or two people have a headlamp on. Glow sticks are also used quite a bit in the preparedness community. These are not going to illuminate the whole house, but in a situation where you're talking about 3-4 days, maybe the situation has gotten dangerous and you don't want the whole house lit up because, like I said earlier with the generators, you've got not only the noise factor to consider, but you've got the light factor to consider. So if the entire neighborhood doesn't have any light, doesn't have any heat, and your house, they can see from the outside, your windows are lit up, you may become a target at that point. So glow sticks are sort of a lower profile light source. All right, so now that we've got some emergency power and we've got some lighting sources, we need to think about how we are going to cook in a blackout situation that may last a few days or longer. Now, food isn't quite as important as having water on hand. We can last a few days without eating a meal, but we're not going to want to. So we need to figure out how we are going to do this in a situation where the appliances may not be working. What you want to think about in a situation like this is meals that take minimal preparation. This could be canned goods, boxed meals, freeze-dried foods, or anything else that could be done fairly easily. Now, when it comes to cooking in a situation like this, you need to think about first the option that you are going to use, but also the fuel necessary to use those. So you've got propane grills, which if you live in a home, most homes in the United States have a propane grill. Some of them have a side burner, and these are one of the best options as far as cooking in an off-grid or power outage type situation. You need to make sure you have extra propane stored, and you also need to think about, just like the light and the sound, you also need to think about cooking smells in a dangerous situation. If you throw a couple nice juicy hamburgers on the grill, you're basically ringing the dinner bell for the entire neighborhood. But propane grills can be used to boil water, all sorts of other things that don't give off that type of smell. You've also got these solar ovens, which would be a good option as well. We have the All-American Sun oven. We can set that in the backyard and it doesn't give off any smell whatsoever. The dogs and the animals don't mess with it, and it makes fantastic meals. So along with the propane grills, if you do have that solar option available, if you do have the sun out, you can use a solar oven as well. Now, outside, you could also use fire pits, camp stoves, things like that. But when it comes to indoor cooking, you're a little bit more limited as far as what you can do. You've got the InstaFire stoves, which basically use canned heat, and they actually work pretty well. These are a little bit over $100, but it's a really useful supply to have. You could also take that camp stove and not necessarily use it outdoors, but use it indoors with some of this sterno. There are also smaller alcohol stoves that you could use indoors, and even butane stovetops. But remember, if you are cooking indoors, proper ventilation is important. So a lot of these are rated for indoor use and it's not a huge problem, but it's always important to have a carbon monoxide detector available and right around when you're cooking inside or when you're heating a small room. And one more thing too, don't forget the manual can opener. If you are cooking a can of beans straight in the can, you're using an alcohol stove or butane, you're going to need to be able to get that can open. And the electric can opener may not work if you don't have a way to power that on. So make sure and have a nice quality manual can opener tucked away in your junk drawer. All right, so that's it for this list in this video today. I know there are just a number of different options when it comes to everything I was talking about today. And I know I've got quite a few educated people that watch these videos that have been planning for a situation like this. If you have anything that I missed or anything you want to add to help everyone else out, leave a comment below and let everyone know. But that's it for this video today. I appreciate y'all watching. If you like the video, you like the channel, make sure and subscribe, hit the like button, make sure and hit that bell notification and get notified every time I upload a video. But with that, take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.